August 14th, and Social Security. This is when it all started. I have all the details and what you need to know right here in the video, so let's get right into it. Did you know that August 14th is the day that it all started for Social Security? Well, in this video, we're going to be taking a little trip down memory lane all the way back to 1935. Now, believe it or not, I was actually not around in 1935, so I need to rely on the history books to tell me what actually happened then, since I was not able to witness it firsthand. So let's get into it and talk about what happened on August 14th, 1935, and why the decisions that day are impacting millions upon millions upon millions of beneficiaries right now, 87 years later. Let's get into it and talk about all the details. So let's rewind all the way back to the 1935 range. So let's talk about what happened that year and why it is so incredibly important for Social Security beneficiaries today. So way back on January 17th of 1935, President Roosevelt at the time sent over to Congress and signed them the Social Security Act of 1935, calling on Congress to pass this bill right away. Well, about 7 months later, Congress finally passed through the Social Security Act of 1935, and on August 14th, 1935, President Roosevelt at the time signed into law the Social Security Act of 1935. Amazing. So here's the thing. 87 years later, here we are right now in 2022, and Social Security is still around and alive, and it is certainly doing very well. However, as we've talked about many times in previous videos, this program does have some issues ahead of it as far as solvency and things like that, but this program is going strong right now. By the time that we are going to foresee any major issues with Social Security in about 13 years from right now, the program will be 100 years old. So from 1935 until 2035, that's a pretty long stretch to be going strong like it is right now, right? So can you imagine the decisions that were made 87 years ago are still impacting tens of millions of people today? So this is actually a very important program. In fact, Social Security is the longest living and most important and relied upon program that is out there right now that sends out monthly benefits across the board for all Social Security beneficiaries of over 70 million beneficiaries. That's a lot of people. In fact, as of right now, it's about 64 to 65 million beneficiaries receive Social Security retirement benefits, and there's about 8 million SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance beneficiaries as well. And then also encompassed under the Social Security umbrella is also survivors beneficiaries, and then of course as well as SSI. Even though SSI is not technically Social Security benefits, it still kind of falls within the Social Security umbrella simply because this program was actually implemented in 1972 because they were starting to see that there were some shortfalls with the Social Security program, as in those individuals who are older adults or younger individuals with disabilities who simply did not have any kind of income coming in because there was no kind of program for them at the time. So in 1972, that is when the SSI, Supplemental Security Income Program, was also implemented. So you can see here, over this time period, we've seen these couple programs come into fruition that, again, send out benefits right now to over 70 million beneficiaries across all of these benefits. That's incredible, right? That's a huge percentage of our population right here in the country, as there's about 334 million people in the United States right now, and 70 million of them are receiving benefits from all of these programs. Incredible, right? So this just shows the power of decision and how a decision today, could be impacting millions of people in, say, 87 years from today, right? Now, realistically, that's probably not going to maybe impact many of us here, but again, just like way back in 1935, who would have thought at the time then that the Social Security Act of 1935 would still be going strong today, 87 years later, and that this program is reaching so many people out there, right? So again, Social Security program is incredibly important. As you can see right here, it's been around for nearly 9 decades, almost 9 decades. That's incredible, right? How many programs can we think of right now that started nearly 9 decades ago and are still going strong as of right now? Not many. I mean, realistically, maybe a few out there, but for the most part, most of these programs, they get started, kind of fizzle out over periods of time, but Social Security just continues to get stronger and stronger, even though, like I said earlier, we all completely recognize that it does have some insolvency issues ahead of it. There's some problems with the trust funds going dry and all kinds of things like this, and income issues and all kinds of stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they're going to figure it out. Not a problem. I mean, realistically, just like with any program, doesn't matter what the program is, any program that comes into fruition and does actually pass through Congress or actually is implemented by anybody, all programs are going to need some type of reform over time. They're going to need to be fixed up, just like the analogy that I've used in previous videos. Just like a car. I mean, honestly, if we had a car that we bought, say, 87 years ago in 1935, do you think it'd need a little bit of tune-up along the way? Yeah, of course. Would the whole engine need to be rebuilt 87 years later today? Yeah, probably. And it's the same old thing with Social Security. They need to come in and rebuild the engine because it's been running for so long. It needs to be fixed up a bit. It needs to be tuned up, and it actually needs to be brought up to current time rather than still, running off the 1935 engine 87 years ago, right? So, yeah, by all means, it certainly does need to be fixed up. But anyway, super interesting stuff that's going on. I've been doing a little bit of research on this stuff, totally geeking out on this stuff here. I find it to be very interesting because here's the thing. Here we are, like I said, 87 years later. Almost 90 years later, still talking about this program that so many of us right here in the community are relying on, right? So again, as a result of those decisions that were made way back in the 1930s, again, January 17th, 1935, President Roosevelt at the time called on Congress, pass me the Social Security Act of 1935. Well, took him about 7 months to do it, and then finally, August 14th, it was signed into law by President Roosevelt at that time. Incredible, right? So, kind of interesting to look back at that. So, could you just imagine all the things that have changed since 1935? I mean, honestly, like I said earlier, I wasn't around then. I have no clue what was going on back then. But the fact of the matter is, just think of the advancements that we've made in this country, and not only in this country, but around the world as a whole, with all these different programs, with technology, with medicine. I mean, literally everything, right? Everything. I can even remember in my lifetime alone, when I was a kid, right? Computers were still like, whoa, you have a computer? Like, what do you do on it, right? Well, I type like Word documents, and that's about it, because that's the only thing you could do back in the day, right? Or play Oregon Trail. I mean, let's be real right now, right? Did you ever play Oregon Trail? Because I know I did, and that was a super fun game, right? But the fact of the matter is, computers did virtually nothing up until not that many years ago. Even think of like the smartphones, like iPhones, for example. 2007 was when the first iPhone was debuted, right? That's not that long ago. That was only 15 years ago when the first smartphone or iPhone was actually brought up. It seems so weird to think about before that. We were all working on our flip phones or, the phone that you had to quick hang up because we might use an extra minute. Remember those days? Oh, man, I remember that. We'd have a little cell phone that like my parents would have or whatever, and we'd make a quick call on it because we had like 80 minutes a month, and they're like, quick, hang up, we're going to use an extra minute. Remember those days? That was so funny. But anyway, the fact of the matter is some interesting things have happened here just over the last 10, 15, even 20 years, not to mention 87 years, just like Social Security. So amazing stuff going on right here. And again, we can only hope that Social Security will come forward and actually do something, or what I should say is Congress, not Social Security. Social Security does not have the power to reform their own program. Congress must do it. It must be an act of Congress. So hopefully Congress will come forward here and recognize that, hey, when this program started out, there were very few beneficiaries at the time, way back in the day, 87 years ago. But here we go, over all this time, as many of you here in the community have spent years and years of your life, decades of your life, working, paying into Social Security taxes, and now you want to retire and start claiming some of your benefits, and hey, or maybe, unfortunately, throughout the course of your working career, maybe you become disabled during that time, and you can't work at the capacity that you once did, or unfortunately, you may not be able to work at all, therefore drawing on SSDI benefits as well. So, it's a very important program, so we can only hope that Congress will come to their senses and actually do something for all these beneficiaries. Again, over 70 million beneficiaries rely on these benefits. Even SSI, again, from 1935 up until 1972, what is that? Almost, 30, I can't even do the math, 37 years, I think that comes out to, according to my mental math, I think. Yeah, 37 years. During that time period, they basically recognized that, hey, what about all these other people out there who may be, older adults who have limited limited income and limited resources who are really struggling and maybe didn't have the ability to pay in a whole lot through Social Security? Or what about the younger individuals who have disabilities who, again, maybe haven't been able to work a whole bunch and pay into Social Security, therefore maybe not be eligible for SSDI benefits? That's when they came out with the SSI program, Supplemental Security Income Program, which again was passed and signed into law by Richard Nixon way back in 1972. So again, a few very important programs that have all come out of this. And SSI realistically came up as a result of them finding out that there was, a need. There was a need for a program like Social Security for beneficiaries who may not be eligible for Social Security benefits. Therefore, that's what gave birth to the SSI program, Supplemental Security Income, and here we are today. And guess what? When was the last time that SSI was reformed? Yep, you called it. 1989 was the last time that SSI was reformed. When was the last time that Social Security was reformed? Well, I'd have to look it up, to be honest with you. It's been a very long time, I can tell you that much. It's been a very long time since these programs have gone through any major reform at all. Anyway, it's about time, right? I think all of us could probably agree it's about time. Anyway, thought it'd be fun to come back in this video and give you a little trip down memory lane here and discuss the progression between Social Security and all the programs within it, as well as SSI and retirement, SSDI, survivors, all of these programs, where they came from, when they were signed into law, and the major impacts that they've had on beneficiaries over the last 87 years or nearly 50 years when it comes to SSI. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you were able to geek out with me a little bit on this information. I thought it was super interesting. I always enjoy going back into history and looking at different things. I don't know. I just find it to be very interesting to kind of do some research on this stuff and just find out like what happened, that many years ago. It's interesting. It would have been super interesting to maybe live through those days and just see how the world has changed in the last nearly 90 years. It's almost unrecognizable, right? I mean, seriously, weird, super weird stuff. Anyway, so hope you're having a nice day so far. Again, thanks so much for watching this. Please subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet. Share the video with your friends, family, social media, and most importantly, go back and check out some of the other thousands and thousands of videos here on the channel. Until next time, have a good one, enjoy your day, and I'll catch you again later in the next video.